Hey guys, I've never done a video like this before, but I wanted to give it a shot. I've been playing Destiny seriously for nearly 2 years now, and I thought it would be cool to take a look back at my history with the game. Dad did something similar to this over a year ago before Beyond Light's release, and I wanted to give it a shot, so all credit to him for the video idea. His is going to be linked in the description. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Hey, also quick side note, I don't have footage of anything from pre-Beyond Light stuff. I feel really uncomfortable using someone else's footage, so I'm just going to be replacing that with other content. So apologies for the inconvenience if that's confusing. My Destiny journey began long before I even played the game. This went all the way back to high school with my friends John and Ivy, who you may have seen on a lot of my streams. The two of them were hyper into Destiny 1, Ivy being an alpha tester for the game, as well as the one responsible for getting John hooked. I remember them constantly discussing it over our lunch breaks, with most of the discussion going over my head, going back and forth on stats, comparing gear on the companion app, looking at a life-size Gallarhorn replica online, and so much more. The two of them were obsessed and kept trying to get me into it, but I wasn't able to afford a PS4 to play with them. High school came and went, and on one fateful summer night, the two of them showed up at my doorstep, unannounced, with one of the most thoughtful gifts I've ever received. A PS4, Destiny 1, and Destiny 2. With all of us beginning college in the coming fall, we decided Destiny would be how we stayed in touch with one another. I got my fair share of time in-game over the summer, completing the vanilla D1 campaign, but that was about as far as we get. College began and things became much more busy than any of us anticipated. The most we were able to play was an attempt at Vault of Glass, left forever unfinished. All of us had to dig our heels in and focus on school, so Destiny unfortunately got put on the back burner. For me, that would be for nearly 2 years. Out of nowhere, it's 2020. The pandemic is full swing, and the Minecraft server I started with my friends from college is kind of starting to lose traction. I mean, there's only so much you can do in Minecraft, and kind of did all of it. I needed something to fill that void, and Destiny 2 offered itself as a solution. I threw my credit card at Sony, purchased a few months of PS Plus, and hopped online. The thing is, though, I didn't stop. This wasn't a one-and-done play session. I kept playing, first 2 or 3 times a week, then every night, only for an hour or two at first, then extended sessions. I got hooked really quickly. I picked the game back up towards the end of Season of the Worthy. Though I didn't get to play much before the end of the season, I did get to have a few great experiences. One of my most treasured memories was my first raid clear ever when our clan took on the Leviathan, D2's first raid. We spent probably 6 hours on Cals alone over 2 sittings, but finally getting the win was the most satisfying feeling. Defeating Cals also rewarded me with my very first exotic, the Shinobu's Vow Hunter Gauntlet. This would come in handy as I experimented with every subclass and quickly latched onto Arcstrider as my favorite. John and Ivy also got me into the Crucible as well. Instantly, I loved the communication skills that went into playing the game. Even while dead, a player was still useful. They could continue to relay information to their teammates and make callouts. I also got to meet Xur for the first time during this season and acquired a few of my favorite exotics, namely Suros Regime and Wormhusk Crown. I don't use either super often to this day, but it's always a trip down memory lane when I do. All in all, my first taste of Destiny 2 was pretty awesome. I got to keep myself occupied during the lockdown, while also having a ton of fun with my friends. Little did I know, however, this was only the beginning. The last thing I remember from Season of the Worthy was getting a call at 10 AM from John, telling me to get on the game ASAP, as the Almighty was about to crash into the tower. What ensued was 2 hours of watching Rasputin's missiles slowly get closer to the ship before it exploded. While that was underwhelming, we still had a good laugh about it, and also segued into my personal favorite season of the game so far, the season of Arrivals. I was able to achieve a lot during the season, as well as make countless memories, so it's all really important to me. Before anything, the most important part of this season was my shift from playing primarily on PS4 to PC. I needed to get a new computer for school that could properly run editing and compositing software. The laptop I ended getting was perfect for D2. This also led to the beginning of my history on Twitch. My first stream ever was an attempt at Prestige Leviathan that ended when we couldn't beat Callus and decided to hit it another night. My content during Season 11 remained primarily D2 based, with the occasional Among Us or Jackbox night, but we'll talk about that later. This is the first season that made me care about the story of the game. At this point, I hadn't played through any of the campaigns, including Red War, which just came with the base game. However, introducing a Thanos-like threat in the form of the pyramid ships whisking away Io, Titan, Mercury, and Mars just got me excited. I love drastic threats like this where so much is at stake, so I found the story both enjoyable and emotional. Saying goodbye to so many characters was hard, even if it had only been 2 months since I met them. I did end up playing through every campaign during the season, though. I actually only bought Forsaken because I found out Xur was selling Black Talon, and I'd wanted that weapon ever since Ivy showed it to me during a game of survival. My clan also tackled the last Wish raid after I picked up Forsaken, spending a pretty healthy amount of time on it. We initially tried figuring it out on our own, making it all the way to the vault before looking up a guide. Either way, the raid quickly cemented itself as my favorite, and I still love running it to this day. Later in the year, I would travel internationally and need to quarantine for 2 weeks, so I purchased Shadowkeep to keep me busy. Coming with Shadowkeep, however, was the season pass for Season of Arrivals. I hadn't accessed any seasonal content prior to that point, aside from the artifact mission everyone got at the beginning, and I started playing a lot more, farming Umbral engrams, running interference, and acquiring the exotics for the season. One of the things I'm proudest of, though, is the title. Titles are obviously highly sought after by many Guardians, so getting my first one was really a big deal to me. Even if seasonal titles aren't the most rare or don't have the hardest objectives, I still usually wear Forerunner on my Hunter for the significance it has to me. During this time, I'd also acquire the Dredgen and Moments of Triumph seal, but I'd make significant progress on one more. During the final week of Season 11, my glory rank was healthily into Mythic 3, and I knew I had to get past that final hurdle and hit Legend. The Saturday before the season ended, I spent a grand total of 13 hours in the competitive playlist with 2 other Guardians I met on LFG, finally getting Legend around 3 o'clock in the morning. Nova and Ryan, if you're watching this somehow, you guys are awesome. Also, sorry I sucked at Crucible back then. The season ended with a crazy live event. We walked the streets of the last city, watching as the Traveler slowly heal itself, before Ghost and Eris cut in with dialogue. This would only escalate the conflict, not end it. The screen cut to black before we were met with the director page, watching as the darkness flooded the destinations panel, taking away Io, Titan, Mercury, and Mars. Let me tell you, I got shivers. I still get shivers when I go back and watch this video, it's not even a joke. This is the Thanos-like story beat that I absolutely love. The heroes lose, with cataclysmic consequences. 4 whole planets completely gone. On top of that, I love the mystery behind the darkness in the pyramids. We know so little about them, and I seriously can't wait to see what Bungie decides to do with them as antagonists. All in all, Season 11 will always be the most memorable season for me. However, this isn't where our story ends, so let's move on. My first impressions of Beyond Light were, well, delayed. As is to be expected, servers were totally jammed on release day. I remember sitting in a queue of tens of thousands of people just waiting to get into the game. Once I did, servers were shaky, as well as my internet, so I maybe got through the first mission before getting booted back to the title screen. I gave up for the time being, focusing on some schoolwork for a bit before hopping on later that night. The campaign was fun on day 1. It felt challenging playing a bit under power, but not hard to the point of ripping my own hair out. Getting my hands on stasis felt awesome, even if incredibly powerful. Quickly, I realized that Crucible was a hot mess, but we'll talk about that in a bit. While I was a bit upset at the time that we didn't learn more about the pyramids or the darkness, I don't mind as much now. I like how surrounded by mystery they are. Besides, bringing the darkness into the story probably would have taken away from Aramis, who the story primarily focused on, so I'm okay with Aramis taking the forefront. Another great thing brought by Beyond Light were the Master and Legend Lost sectors. This has been a great way to farm for exotics while also making it challenging, so props to Bungie for that. Overall, even if it didn't age the best, I really did enjoy that first week of Beyond Light. Things were about to spiral, however. A week after Beyond Light's launch, Season of the Hunt officially took off. And it was okay. The story was fine. I think Spider, as despicable as he can be, is a really cool character, and this storyline was the perfect spot for him. But there's one character that shines above all in my eyes, a character who has remained incredibly consistent and well written since his debut. I can say without hesitation that Crow has been my favorite character in the game since Season of the Hunt. It's a hard task to take on, but Bungie did a really good job of creating an unconventional redemption arc. Aldrin did terrible things, but this isn't Aldrin. This is Crow. They're 2 separate people. Getting over that fact and learning to like Crow was one of my favorite moments from the season, and freeing him from the spider felt incredibly satisfying. That's where much of my praise for Season of the Hunt ends. Wrathborn hunts were some of the most boring activities I'd played today and rewarded relatively lackluster loot. The formula of play other activities in order to play this activity has never sat well with me. Take notes, Festival of the Lost. So I guess I'm a bit biased to an extent, but I know I'm not the only one that didn't find this very fun. Additionally, as more and more Guardians got their hands on Stasis, I began to find Crucible more and more infuriating. Being frozen and slowed on repeat was a drag, and having Stasis was a necessity unless you were on Top Tree Dawnblade. So I barely even got a chance to play Arcstrider. I ended up not making it back to Legend that season, which honestly was fine with me because I wasn't having fun with the Crucible anyways. Enough of the negatives though, let's talk about some positives because there were quite a few during this season. First off, I got my first Grandmaster Nightfall clear during this season, on Broodhold of all things. I didn't try to finish Conqueror mostly from a lack of time, but knowing I was able to clear GM was a powerful feeling itself. Season of the Hunt also reintroduced the Hawkmoon exotic in the form of a Whisper of the Worm style quest. I really did enjoy this, especially with it being another source for a pinnacle. There's one activity though, that trumps all others of this season for me. The Deepstone Crypt. While I didn't attempt to raid Deepstone day 1, my clan and I did go in blind about a month later over Christmas break. Avoiding spoilers was tricky, but getting to solve it on our own without any help was really meaningful to me. I love trying to solve puzzles like that on my own. It always feels way more rewarding to me than looking up a guide. To this day, it's still probably my second favorite raid ever. For whatever reason, I just don't get bored playing it, even if it's on the easier side. With that, Season of the Hunt came to a close. As you can probably guess, it was a pretty lackluster time for me, and my content on Twitch reflected that. I started to move more towards variety content, with Destiny as a side thing that I would play whenever I was feeling like it or couldn't get enough people for a different activity. Things were about to change for the better, though. The trailer for Season of the Chosen released a week before the season began, as is regular with most seasons. Wow, I just said season a lot. Season. As I saw we were fighting the Cabal, I couldn't help but feel a little underwhelmed with where the story was headed. We just spent 3 months fighting Xivu Arath's right-hand man, and I felt weird and disjointed to split away to fight the Cabal, but nevertheless I went in with high hopes, and boy did this season deliver on them. While Battlegrounds was not the most fun activity, it was certainly a breath of fresh air compared to last season's hunts. Strong enemy density, paired with a good loot structure that rewarded useful loot, meant it at least felt worth it to play Battlegrounds. On the topic of loot, it was really good this season. Kinetic SMG, linear with Vorpal, lasting impression rocket, sniper and bow to pair with champion mods for the season, they really had it all. Tiku's Divination, the season pass exotic, is one I heavily slept on. I didn't bother finishing the Catalyst because I didn't want to grind through the Guardian kills, but now I really wish I had. This is one of my go-to options for high-level content now, though that's mostly because we have both themed champion mods. Either way, one incredible exotic. As for the story, it caught me off guard in a great way. Bro was handled incredibly well. The idea of hiding him from the Vanguard was not a storyline I was anticipating, but it made it feel like there were realistic stakes to keeping his identity on the down low. And when he is finally revealed, it doesn't become another Forsaken revenge story. He's accepted. He's a Guardian. Another character I really enjoyed this season was Kaitel. One thing I like about her is her sense of loyalty. When she loses the right of proving, she holds up on her end of the bargain. On top of that, she stands by Zavala after the assassination attempt, swearing to hunt down the Scion responsible for the attack. That's a very big character moment we don't see for many enemies. We know we're foes, but we know there's a bigger threat currently, so we can band together. Earning the Dead Man's Tale exotic, while incredibly frustrating in the Crucible, was a buttload of fun. Returning to the Glycon every week, not only for an easy pinnacle, but also a ton of hidden collectibles was so cool. I love it when Destiny encourages the player to explore areas and find things for themselves, and I love doing that on the Glycon. In terms of what I achieved this season, there are 2 major milestones. Firstly was acquiring the Conqueror seal. My friend Stacky and I grinded the power cap incredibly quickly before attempting a new GM each week, beginning with the Devil's Lair. The final one we needed to complete the title, the Insight Terminus, was looking really grim in our first few attempts. The player we LFG'd with was having horrible connection issues, and on our only run that made it to the boss room, we ended up with 0 revives, leaving me the only player alive. Hiding in a corner, I slowly chipped away at Kargan's health with a sniper and anarchy, hitting nearly an hour before I salvaged the run and earned myself Conqueror. The second was my first raid title, Descendant from the Deepstone Crypt. Oddly enough, the thing that took me longest was organizing a clan night run. I was raiding Deepstone pretty much every week for the pinnacles and doing a challenge as a second pinnacle, so I had them all done pretty quickly. I also got very lucky with Eyes of Tomorrow, getting it around my 9th or 10th run. So shout out to all you players at 30 clears with no eyes. I'm rooting for ya. We ended up buying a friend in Beyond Light around 2 in the morning so they could be a 6th for the raid party. And finished around 3:30 in the morning. I earned my title and helped a friend get eyes on his first run. Seems fitting. Guardian games also happened this season. Yeah. It just kinda happened. Hunters won, I guess, so that's cool. But yeah. Bounties. Cool. On top of that, Bungie released an article discussing what lay ahead for the franchise, including future stasis nerfs that would be rolling out earlier than anticipated, a look at the transmog system set for Season of the Splicer, and much more. More importantly, however, they revealed that the gates on Venus would open again, and Vault of Glass would return to Destiny 2 during Season 14. With that, our raid team slowly began coming together. Season of the Splicer launched on May 11th, 2021. The first video on my YouTube channel has a quick segment at the beginning of me reacting to the trailer, fun fact. Go watch it. Like, after you finish this video. But then, like, go watch it or something. Leave a like. Once again, I was misled with the story. Anticipating a storyline that didn't tie into Savathûn and the Hive, I couldn't be more wrong. We dove headfirst into the Vex network after they sunset the Sun of the Last City. What kind of fucking sentence is that, Dalton? Jeez. While we didn't receive development for Crow, I did like the story beats we got regarding both Saint 14 and Mithrax. Watching them set aside their differences and become friends was incredibly satisfying. Am I saying incredibly satisfying a lot? It really feels like I am. Another big moment of the season for me was watching racist robot lady bite the dust at the end. Lakshmi 2, an EXO representative of the future war cult faction, had quite a few assumptions regarding our support of the Fallen, which eventually led to her demise. Incredibly fitting way for her to go out, if you ask me. I think a lot of people were happy with that one. Overall, however, one of the best parts of the season's story was how it set up the future for the game's narrative. Not just for the following season, but for Witch Queen. The plot of Season 14 directly introduced us to Savathûn in a really subtle yet clever way that I'll talk about in a bit. Override had the same benefits and problems as Battleground. Good loot structure and good loot, but not as fun on repeats. Either way, still better than the Wrathborn hunts. Not a high bar, I know, but I have to mention it. One thing I did like more, however, was Expunge. I know a lot of people expected this to be the next Presage or Harbinger mission, but honestly I like to find it's just a weekly story mission. On top of that, I absolutely love the seasonal challenges that made you speedrun the level. Those made me feel like a total gamer, not gonna lie. Expunge had not only good enemy density, but creative puzzles, for the most part. Each Expunge received a corrupted counterpart, in which yours truly Savathûn corrupted the Vex network. If you look closely enough at the UI, she communicates with you. This direct line of communication with her was so creepy to me in the best way possible. The kind of creepy that sends chills down your spine. This is the villain we've been chasing for so long in the franchise. This is what everything has been leading up to. She's getting closer. One of the season's biggest highlights, however, was Vault of Glass's return. This is the first time my clan has attempted a day 1 race, and even though we weren't even able to clear it once to get to the challenge mode, I'm still really proud that we made it to Atheon in the first place. It was very insightful for what to expect going into a day 1 race, and I'm super excited to try again when the Witch Queen raid drops. Master Mode also came out with Vault of Glass, and while I never got to complete it, it's almost similar to the day 1 experience, which is incredibly helpful. While it's impossible to practice mechanics for a raid you've never done, it is possible to practice against strong enemies, and Master Vault of Glass seems like the best place to do that currently. It's not like a Grandmaster where you slowly grind through waves of enemies. It's a juggle of staying alive against powerful foes and performing mechanics on the spot as you learn them. Crucible also began to lighten up again, with even further nerfs to Stasis, as well as buffs to many light subclasses. The subclass meta of PvP became incredibly diverse once again. Finally, I was able to play Arcstrider without feeling like I was at an inherent disadvantage. I paired it with the exact same Shinobus I got from my very first Leviathan, and that's been my main playstyle ever since. Once again, I failed to make it back to Legend, but I blame that mostly on having a summer job and being unable to play as much. It's hard for me to choose a favorite between Splicer and Chosen because I love both of them for different reasons. Both had great loot, good stories, and a lot of fun times. But without further ado, that leads us into the present day. Season of the Lost launched the same day that Bungie released their trailer for the Witch Queen, as well as revealing many aspects of the expansion. I'll talk about the Witch Queen stuff later, but I'm very excited for all of it. Let's talk Season of the Lost, though. Season 15 marked the long-awaited return of Marasov to the Dreaming City. It also marked the unveiling of Savathûn, who had been disguised as Osiris since Season of the Hunt. Savathûn claims her sister, Xivu Arath, is currently hunting her, being able to detect the worm within her. Mara and Savathûn strike a deal. Mara will exorcise the worm from Savathûn, making her mortal, and Savathûn will return Osiris to us. Pretty straightforward if you ask me. A few things I really love about this story. 1. Mara and Crow meet. Not Mara and Aldrin, Mara and Crow. She sees he is different, but also sees her brother. The dynamic between them, as well as between Crow and Petra, is incredibly tense. To me, this adds to the story. Things are already so dire with Savathûn as an immediate enemy, and the last thing we should have to deal with is infighting. On top of that, we get our first proper introduction to Savathûn. We talk with her every week, and towards the end of our conversations, we watch her torment Crow. We get to see how wicked she is, tempting but cold. This is the perfect fuel we need to get ready to kill her next season. At least for me. Watching her pretend to be our friend, get us on her side, is so infuriating for some reason. She meddles with us at every chance she gets. Season of the Lost does a great job of setting her up as a major villain. It leaves us wondering a lot of things. Will the exorcism work properly? Will she hold up her end of the bargain and return Osiris to us? When we stop her, how do we do it? How do we stop Xivu Arath after we stop Savathûn? As for the activities and loot, I enjoy the Shattered Realm for the same reasons as Presage, but do not hesitate to believe me when I say, I fucking hate astral alignment! I do not tread lightly when I say I hate astral alignment more than the Wrathborn hunts. The hunts were at least quick. You could get them over in a minute or two. Astral alignment takes forever! Even with a coordinated team that knows what they're doing, you can only install 6 batteries so fast. You can only destroy so much ether at a time. The Taken Eye one I don't mind as much, but damn, this shit sucks. Anyways, on the topic of the Shattered Realm, I did enjoy getting to explore those areas and discover the lore that came with it. I'll also say that the quest for Ager's Scepter was decently fun as well. I like it when quests use old spaces like the Dreaming City. It's a reminder like, hey, this is still in the game and it's still important to the story. On a side note, Season of the Lost included my 1-year anniversary streaming on Twitch. To celebrate, I planned a marathon of a stream, beginning with a playthrough of Forsaken, followed by a raid marathon with some friends. In the middle of our marathon, though, I got raided. That sounds redundant, but you know what I mean. The awesome folks over at Astonished TV hit me with a massive raid, sharing with me their plans to change Twitch and help smaller streamers get their footing on the way to partner. These guys came to me at a time where I was doubting myself as a Twitch personality, and they hit me with a giant shot of confidence. Sometimes all you need is a little help. Huge shout out to the guys at Astonished. They're incredibly supportive and kind, and their links will be in the description. Go check them out. It's been a really busy semester trying to juggle school and Destiny and everything else, but I'm pretty proud of what I achieved during it. First, I was able to start and finish the Deadeye title. Side note about Deadeye, I did all the bow and trace rifle kills in momentum control, and my KDA dropped from a 1.6 to a 1.4 in 1 week. But one of the things I'm most proud of is finishing my Suros Regime Catalyst. From the moment I got the gun, it had been one of my favorite weapons in the game, so when I got the Catalyst to drop a few months back, I knew I had to complete it. I didn't even cheese it in momentum control like Deadeye. I did it all in control and Iron Banner. Even if I don't use it much anymore, I'm still proud that the Catalyst is finished. That's one most people in my clan haven't finished yet, if anyone. Early in the season, Trials of Osiris returned, with a completely revamped reward structure. With a heavily saturated player pool, I hopped into a fire team with John and Stacky, and we all got our first flawless ever. I remember the nerves from the 7th game of the card, fighting without my mercy, and the adrenaline rush when your team won popped up on my screen. I've gone flawless a few more times since that first weekend, and it's cool to know I can do it now. I've improved. How about that? While we're on the topic of getting better at Crucible, let's talk about comp. With just 3 weeks remaining in Witch Queen and after nearly 6 months of blood, sweat, and tears, I hit it. Legend a second time, just a few days ago at the time we're recording this video. Comp has been so draining on me for so long, and hitting max rank after such a grind just felt so good. My final goal of the season is to acquire Ribbonsbane, or at least get a Petra's run complete. Our earliest attempt of a Petra's made it all the way to Ribbon before failing on DPS. With particle deconstruction on our side, however, I don't think we'll run into that issue again. A smaller goal I have on my list is to get a few challenges done in Vault of Glass Master Mode for Fatebreaker. That's definitely the lowest thing on my list though. If it happens, woohoo! But I'm not heartbroken if it doesn't. That's about all I have to say on Season of the Lost though. Again, it's hard to rank this one alongside Chosen and Splicer, but it would probably be beneath both. While I love the Shattered Realm, Astral Alignment combined with the lackluster loot pool just doesn't do it for me and is enough to knock it down a peg. To close out this video, I also wanted to share my thoughts as we head into Witch Queen. We've got a lot to process and just 2 weeks before it comes out, so let's get into it. First of all, the 30th anniversary event has been a total blast. Dares is a fun activity that doesn't take itself too seriously. Even if it drags on sometimes, running around with Infinite Galahorn always makes things more enjoyable. Grasp of Avarice has also solidified itself as my favorite dungeon. I was able to achieve my very first solo flawless dungeon clear with Grasp around the second week of the event. When I tell you I screamed, believe me, I screamed. On top of that, the loot has been really solid from this event. Awesome weapons, nice looking armor, and beautiful cosmetics from Eververse. All around, really great job from Bungie on this one. On a side note, I also really appreciate Galahorn being behind a quest as opposed to a random drop from the dungeon. While the thrill of getting a raid exotic can be exhilarating, so much of it comes down to RNG. Again, loop back to Ivy and all the other people that are 50 clears into Deepstone Crypt with no Eyes of Tomorrow. Even if the content isn't getting sunset anytime soon, it's nice insurance to have a quest behind it. On a controversial note, I think the removal of old Forsaken content is fine. I know a lot of the community is really up in arms about this, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. Spider services are being relocated to Rahul in the Tower, which literally makes things so much more convenient. And it's not like you can replay the campaign without deleting a character anyways. Even if you could, would you realistically? What do you do on the Tangle Shore besides visit the spider? Wrathborn hunts? Well, that's leaving too. This is not the end of the world. You can still do public events on the EDZ. Now, let's talk about Witch Queen. Solely based on what we've been shown so far, this expansion looks hype as fuck. I think it has the potential to be as good as Forsaken, though I didn't play during Forsaken, so you may not want to take my word for it. One of Beyond Light's biggest shortcomings is that the content vault took a lot of material away from the game, while Beyond Light didn't have many features to supplement that lost content. As things currently stand, it looks like the Witch Queen won't be having this problem. Between a hard mode campaign for replayability, a match-made activity within the throne world, and weapon crafting, it at least seems like there will be plenty to do at launch. On top of that, we'll be getting a new dungeon or raid content every 3 months, as well as some new PvP maps in the works. Oh my god, we're getting PvP maps back with Witch Queen. Like they're not new maps, but we're getting maps back. Holy shit, I'm so excited! The story is another thing that's got me really excited. When you've got a 6-month-long season like Season of the Lost, you're eventually going to run out of story content. It's inevitable. As Bungie has mentioned so many times though, we have been building up to this story of Savathûn for years. We're going to get a lot of answers about Savathûn's presence, but I also think we're going to learn a bit about the darkness. If you're avoiding the trailers, I'd skip to the time on screen now. Okay. In the trailer we received during the Game Awards, we see the Guardians touching down on Mars, where they encounter Hive wielding the light. Last time we saw Mars was at the end of the Season of Arrivals, where it was whisked away by the darkness. I don't know how long we'll be on Mars. Maybe this Mars we're on is Savathûn's throne world. Or it could be a gateway we use to access the throne world, and it's gone after the first story mission. Either way, this could play a part in learning how or why the darkness took the planets away. On top of that, the raid for Witch Queen takes place inside a frickin' pyramid in the swamps of the throne world. where we'll be fighting an ancient danger imprisoned within. With that description in mind, I think Savathun will probably meet her end of the campaign, with some entity of the darkness being a raid boss. Keeping my fingers crossed that it's not a Scorn raid, but part of me wonders if the pyramid this raid takes place in is the same one that manifested above Mars all that time ago, before Beyond Light. I could spend more time speculating, but then we'd be here all day. Let's move on. We also have Void 3.0 to look forward to at Witch Queen's launch. As obnoxious as invisibility is in the Crucible, my hope is that Tether and Spectral Blades will be a bit more viable in PvP, but not to the point that they're game-breaking. Same goes for Sentinel and Nova, but as a Hunter main, I'm obviously more excited for one than the other. One minor nitpick I have is I'm hoping the Aspect Fragment quests are a bit less grindy than they were in Beyond Light, but that's also just a personal thing. Maybe I'm a filthy casual, but those quests always seem to take way too long for me. Finally, as previously mentioned, I'm very excited to give the Day 1 race a shot again. I don't expect to place well, but I know with the right team and builds, we can solve it on our own and get our first Day 1 clear. So yeah, that's been my history with Destiny 2. There have been a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I've had the chance to meet and get closer with so many awesome Guardians on this journey. I sunk in an ungodly amount of time into this game, and I have no plans of stopping. Thanks for watching.